Hi, my name is Michelle Grajkowski, and I'm the director of the Wisconsin Business World program. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about something super important, you. Think way back to this morning. Did you wake up to your cell phone alarm? Or did you just hit snooze? Or did you jump out of bed? Did you hop in the shower? Or were you running really late so you grabbed a Pop-Tart to rush to school? Here's the biggest question. Did you have all your homework done? Or are you sitting there right now doing your homework as I'm talking to you? I see you. That was me. Did you ever really stop to think, though, that every decision you make, every single one, affects you and your future? Guess what? You're in control of your future. You are an entrepreneur. You are the business owner of your own life. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Every business has a really strong foundation in order to be successful. Every business starts with an entrepreneur. Somebody had an idea, and that idea turned into something big. Every business has a strong leader, a CEO, every strong, successful business, I should say, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Finance. Finance is a huge department. Without having profitability, your business isn't going to succeed. What about marketing? Without people knowing about your business and seeing your business in a good light, do you think it'll be successful? And finally, production, right? You need somebody who's going to produce whatever it is you're selling. We're going to talk about how each one of these pillars of a strong business are so important to you in your everyday life. Lesson number 1, I want you to start thinking like an entrepreneur. Anyone ever thought about what it takes to be an entrepreneur? I've been running my own business for 20 years now. I work in publishing. It's a really great job. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of hard work. For me, it became an idea that I had when I was in my mid-20s, and I started a literary agency right in Madison, Wisconsin, when you really had to be in New York in order to be a successful agent. It's been so rewarding, and it's been so awesome, but let me tell you, it's a lot of hard work. Entrepreneurs are people, right, that make things happen. Life is what happens to me, or life is what I make happen. Make your life happen. Create the life that you want to be living. Entrepreneurs are leaders, okay? They have to think about what's different, things that they can change within their communities, within a service industry. They find ways to make a mark. Who is an entrepreneur? Somebody who dreams big, right? My kids always tell me, Mom, if I had a quarter for every idea you had, I'd have my tuition paid for. I'm always thinking of new things, new businesses. Entrepreneurs see the big picture. You have to, because you're in control of everything within your business. You have to be able to see all of those pillars and to be able to do each one of those pillars. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers. They're active listeners. They're always, always, always on the go. They're always on their phones. I swear I spend a lot of time on my phone just looking, checking emails, making sure everything is being handled within my business. Entrepreneurs are thoughtful, though, and they take a pause. They want to make sure every decision that they're making makes sense for their future. Biggest thing, and the biggest takeaway that I hope you get through this whole presentation is never stop learning. Entrepreneurs are constantly learning because guess what? If a business stops learning, if a business stops evolving, that business is not going to last. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So here's the question, and I want you to really think about this. Is it better to follow the money, or is it better to follow your passion? I think there's a good combination of both. There's a huge argument for following money because, of course, we need money, right, in order to live our normal lives. But let me tell you, it's really important to follow your passion. I had a really good career going back in my 20s. I was in sales right out of college, and then I started working for the UW Hospital in their purchasing department. I thought that was going to be my job. I thought forever that's what I was going to do. That was my career path. And actually, my boss sent me in and sat down with me and said, you know what, Michelle, we want to pay for you to get your master's, and we see you taking over the procurement department someday. At that very pivotal moment, I had also started thinking about my own agency, and I had to make a decision. Was it better to follow the secure path, the money at the hospital, or was it better to follow my passion, which was really to help people publish their books? And guess what? Passion won, and it paid off. So sometimes it takes some time to make that money back, but it was a really smart decision for me and one that I'll never regret. CEOs, let's start talking. After you have your great business idea and as you start evolving, you need to build a strong team. Okay, so CEOs are very close and close-minded to entrepreneurs because they're in charge of seeing the big picture. CEOs are leaders, right? They have to lead a team. They see that big picture. The biggest thing, probably the most important thing that a good CEO can do is to create a really strong positive culture within the workforce, within their workplace. They build strong teams. They find good people to work in their companies, and they make sure that everyone is on the same steering path. CEOs really spend a lot of time thinking, right? They're really always trying to figure out the best way to build their business and to make their business more successful. What are some things do you think they think about? Profitability, resources, the demand for their goods and services, where they're located, and most importantly, their leadership. How are they as a leader? How are they seen? A good CEO understands that employees are the most important part to a successful business. If you have strong employees, if you have employees that are engaged, if you have employees that work as a team, your company is going to get far. As Forbes just had a really great article that came out a few months ago, and it gave some wonderful, startling stats. It showed that highly engaged teams show a 21% greater profitability than companies without that strong teamwork component. The more staggering statistic that really surprised me is that disengaged employees cost US companies $550 billion a year. Let me repeat that, $550 billion a year. As a CEO, your job is to make sure that your employees are feeling part of the team. When the employees were actually interviewed for this, and the stats were really cool, it showed that 96% of all employees found that empathy in the workplace led to the most retention. They will not leave their job if they feel valued. So a CEO knows that. So how does this relate back to you? Are you a positive force? Are you a positive force in your friends' lives, in your family's lives, in your school life, in your teams? Are you the cheerleader? Are you the person that people come to in order to listen to their problems? Are you the leader of your group? Or are you actually more the follower? You kind of sit back and you're just there and you're super helpful and people know that they can come to you. Whoever you are, be the best you can be. Be the light, okay? Be that CEO. Be you. Be the one that empowers and instills your values onto others. Conversely, CEOs, they know their employees, right? So it's as important as it is for people to know who you are, it's important for you to know who they are. So think about it. I want you to think for a second. Who's that friend that you go to if you're having a bad day? Who's the friend that's going to tell a joke and make you feel better? Who's the one that if you get an A on a calc test that you've been studying really hard for, that you can go and share, and they're not going to be like, oh, who are you going to talk to? Is it your parents? Is it your teachers? Is it a guidance counselor? Think about who that is in your life that you can go to. Know your employees, know the rules of the people and everyone that's surrounding you. Surround yourself with a good team. Write down your goals. CEOs write down their goals. Good CEOs write down their goals. Because again, progress, innovation is what keeps a business moving forward. CEOs and anyone in general, you right now, if you write down your goals, you'll be 30 times more apt to be successful with that goal. Write it down. And when you're thinking about goals, let's talk about that a little bit. Because it's really easy sometimes to set a goal to be like, you know what, my goal is I'm going to get a 35 on the ACT. Guess what? Super great goal. I love that goal. Guess what? That's also something you cannot 100% control. What you can control is I'm going to put in 2 hours a day, every day after school, working on all of these subjects that give me a hard time. You can put that work in. That can be the goal you write down, that I'm going to spend from 8 till 10 doing homework. You can write that goal down and you can check it off because that's something you can, for the most part, control. So if you have some of those big pie dreams, which is great, a dream would be to get that 35 on the ACT, go for it. Do everything you can to get to that dream, but write down attainable goals that are going to help you and steps that will help you get to that goal. This slide right here is one of my absolute favorite slides of my whole presentation because I get to brag for a minute. This is the Sun Prairie High School football team. And I'm bringing this up here. This is a couple years ago now. My son actually is in the middle picture. His hand is up like this. He was the captain of his football team his senior year. We were so proud. There were 80 people on his football team. So the Sun Prairie football team is a very large team. My reason for bringing them up is actually twofold. The summer before my son's senior year, we had a really bad catastrophe in our small town in Sun Prairie. There was a gas leak that actually caused a huge explosion. We lost one of our firefighters in the explosion. It was devastating. It devastated our town, it devastated our main street, and it devastated our morale. But the thing is, that summer, we also came together. The community pulled together. Sun Prairie Strong, was all over the place. And our football team right here, they came together. They collected water. They did everything they could to try to help rebuild our community. The other piece of this Sun Prairie football team is my son's junior year. So his freshman and sophomore year, they had two different teams. And so the boys were all able to play, and they figured out who the leaders were on the field. They all knew kind of what their positions were. They knew what they were doing, and guess what? They were undefeated freshman year. They lost one game by just a baby bit their sophomore year. Their junior year, they got onto varsity. With a team of 80, it's really hard to get that time on the field. Our coach has a really great philosophy that he likes to reward our seniors because they've put in so much time. So the seniors got most of the play time. Most of our boys never stepped on the field. So flash forward past everything that happened in that summer before his senior year, we jumped into the football season, and important fact, his junior year, their team went to state. Okay, and so here are my boys, these guys that have played together undefeated seasons. They barely touched the field at all their junior year, and the team goes to state. They're at Camp Randall. Barely any of them got to step on the field. They had huge shoes to fill their senior year. Senior year rolls around. They got together to play their first game. It was an away game. The guys forgot who they were. They forgot each other's strengths. They forgot each other's weaknesses. They got out to play. Guess what happened? They lost. Something they were not used to. Something the Sun Prairie fans weren't used to. It was a big deal, right? They had to figure out who they were. The second game, which is the pictures that you see here, this was the most important game of the season. And not just because it was the first home game. It was the first home game after our explosion. The community all came out to watch this game. There was a lot of pressure on the boys. They were just coming off a loss. They were just coming off the devastation that happened, the real life devastation in our community, and they knew they had to win. The jerseys that they're wearing on these pictures are special firefighter jerseys. We had a really great celebration for the firefighters that came in that day. The guys were wearing their special jerseys. They handed them off to the firefighters that were injured, as well as to the widow of the firefighter who lost his life. It was a very, very special presentation. So nerves were high, right? Guess what? The guys had gotten together and they remembered who they were. They remembered who the leaders were. They remembered how to win. And they came together. They won that game, and guess what? They won every other game that whole entire season until our third round in the playoffs when we played Fond du Lac, and I don't like to talk about that game. But the point is, know your team, okay? Find that strong team. Find people that'll lift you up if you're making mistakes, if you fall, if you're feeling lost, because that team can take you places that you can't even imagine. All right, finance. Finance is probably one of the most important parts of a business, right? Because without a strong financial background, without strong books, you're not going to be able to pay any of your other employees, right? You need to make sure that you have a strong, profitable business. But it goes beyond that. Business is a force for good. Okay, that's one of the most important things I want you guys to learn today. Business is a force for good. And without a strong finance, without money, without profitability, it's really hard to be that force. Being a force for good doesn't just mean for your own pocketbooks, right? People think that CEOs make lots of money, and I want to be a CEO because they make lots of money. Well, guess what? They also have a lot of responsibilities. On the flip side, they also donate a lot of their money back into the community. We're going to talk a little bit about that importance and how that works. WMC Foundation, the Business World program that I'm a part of, we're a nonprofit. which means that everything that you're seeing today, all the videos that we have on our website, any of the in-person presentations, anything that we're doing is all because we have generous sponsors. And without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today. We have to solicit, do grant requests and everything. And luckily, people really believe in our mission. And that's the beauty of a strong, profitable company, because not only can the corporations donate to us, but guess what? The employees are able to donate as well. So think about that when you're working. Think about causes that are important to you. Think about ways that you can improve your own community by giving back. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about how to save, so you do have some of that money to give back. This is a really fun slide. I challenge you guys to do this. If you just save a penny a day, so if you start tomorrow, put a penny in a jar, keep adding to that penny every day, so the next day you put 2 pennies in, 3 pennies in, 4 pennies in. By the time you get to day 365, you will have saved $667.95. Literally, for pennies a day, you guys, you can save $667. Let's put that into perspective. My daughter is a junior at the UW-Madison, and her rent is about $650 a month. Instead, and I love to use her as an example, and she doesn't really love it so much, she goes to Starbucks every day, right? And she buys one of those big grande Starbucks drinks, one of the frothy ones, and she drinks about this much of it, right? So she's spending what, probably $6 a day at Starbucks, drinking about that much. Just think, if she saved those pennies, she could be paying for her rent. So think about your purchases. Think about ways that you can just put a penny in a jar a day. Reasons to save. Emergencies, right? Hopefully, knock on wood, you're not going to be hitting many emergencies at your age. But for me, it's super important to make sure that you have some money to have in the bank in case something does happen, because I have a family that I have to protect. Big purchases. What's your biggest purchase probably coming up? College, right? It's never too early to start saving for college. Let's talk a little bit deeper. This is super important. This is something that I'm drilling into my own 2 kids, and I hope that if you don't remember anything else, this is one of the things you're going to remember today, because this is so important. We're going to talk about the power of compound interest. Does anybody really know and understand what compound interest is? Let me tell you, it's super important. Compound interest means that every year, the money that you're investing, the interest builds on itself. So you're actually making money without having to put more money into the bank. We're going to give 2 examples. We have Ben, okay? Ben is 19 years old. Ben decides that he's going to just put away $2,000. He's going to put $2,000 into an IRA or some really good retirement account. He does that every year until he reaches 26. By the time he's 26, he's put in about $18,000 of his own money. He decides, you know what, I'm done saving, which I wouldn't recommend doing, but he does. He just says, you know what, I'm done. So we flash forward to the time that he's ready to retire, when he's 65. Guess what? He has $2.2 million sitting in the bank from that $18,000. Think about that. $18,000 turns into $2.2 million. Now let's talk about Arthur. Okay, Arthur decides, you know what, I went to college and, you know, I'm trying to get my life ready. Maybe he bought a car, and he decides, I better start saving. So he starts saving when he's 27. And so he puts that same $2,000 in the bank. By the time he reaches 65, he's saved $80,000 of his own dollars, right? He's had to put in $80,000 into that savings account. He still has $1.5 million to retire on. Nothing to sneeze at. I'd be happy with $1.5 million in my bank. But guess what? He had to put $80,000 into his own bank account to get to that number. So my point, guys, start saving now. It's never too early. It's never too early to start investing. There's so many fun apps now. You can go on Robinhood. Once you hit 18, talk to your parents, you know, if you want to start investing sooner. It's really fun to get into the stock market. But now is the time. Now is the time to start saving your money. So, don't waste your money. That's probably the biggest tip that I have. That's what I try to tell my daughter every day. Do you really need that Starbucks? And then to go and get it again in the afternoon. You know, yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes mental health is super important. But really think about what you're spending your money on. There's great ways to save. On here I have a couple different ideas. I don't know if you've ever heard of MyPoints, but it's a great, if you do a lot of online shopping, if you go on mypoints.com, you can go on there and buy online through different vendors. So like it'll pop you over to Amazon, it'll pop you to Barnes & Noble. And you get points for all of your shopping purchases that you can redeem into gift cards. It's a great way to save money without ever really buying any, spending things you wouldn't spend. Mint is another great way to keep track of all your finances. You can keep all your banking accounts, your credit cards, everything right in there so you can see exactly what you're spending to the minute. And don't forget about customer loyalty programs. Starbucks has a great loyalty program. My daughter is really versed in that one. Target's another really good one to look at. All right, let's get past the money and start talking about you. Marketing. Marketing is also super important in a business, right? Because marketing is what helps get your image and your product in front of the customers. And let's face it, without people buying your products or your services, you're not going to have a business, right? So marketing is super important. That's our communication piece. Qualities of a good marketing team: they have excellent communication skills. They know how to get their point across. I'm a marketing girl myself. My degree is actually in family and consumer communications, which is a fancy way to say journalism. I loved my marketing classes. It's really fun. One example that I like to bring into our mini programs is bubbly. All right, anyone ever drank bubbly, the sparkling water? Well, let me tell you, I do not like sparkling water at all, zero. I don't like the taste of it, I don't like it, but I drink at least one, probably 2 to 3 a day. And you know why? When I pick up the bubbly can, you guys check it out, go online and Google bubbly and you'll see there's cute little smile faces on it. There's cute little marketing messages, like the little tab is a different color and it says like, what's up, and all kinds of cool things, right? It makes me feel good to hold that can. That's marketing, right? Make people feel a certain way. Marketing teams are also super creative and innovative. We talked earlier about businesses that don't innovate die. Marketing helps to make sure that we're constantly showing how we're unique and innovating in our specific industries. Let's talk a little bit about personal branding. I'm going to show you some slides here, and I want you to call out the slogans for these slides. McDonald's. I'm loving it. Nike. Just do it. Quick Trip. This one always gets people a little confused. Sometimes. See you next time, right? Every time you're in a Quick Trip, they say, see you next time, and I love it. That makes me want to go there because it makes me feel happy. Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. M&M's. This one's tricky. Melt in your mouth, not in your hands. How about The Rock? Anyone know what The Rock usually says? Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? And how about this? Oprah Winfrey. Anyone know Oprah? Well, she was famous for saying, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. So whenever you see Oprah, you think, I'm getting a car. I wish it was that easy. Let's talk about one of my favorite sports heroes, J.J. Watt. To me, J.J. Watt embodies personal branding. His slogan is dream big, work hard. It is everywhere on his social media. It's his hashtag. But the thing is, you guys, that's who he is, right? J.J. Watt has worked so hard to get to where he is now. I don't know if you know the history of J.J. Watt. He is one of the most storied Badgers football players of all time. He took a break from college. He played his freshman year in Michigan, took a break, and came back to Wisconsin, and started delivering pizzas in his hometown in Pewaukee. One day, he knocked on a door, and there was a little 10-year-old guy that opened the door and said, J.J. Watt, what are you doing here? Why aren't you playing football? And he thought, why am I not playing football? So guess what? He started training. He started working out. He started getting back into his football shape. He contacted the Badgers and said, hey, you know what? I think I really want to come back, or I think I really want to walk on. And guess what they said? Okay. Turned out to be the best decision for the Badgers ever. J.J. Watt walked on, and the rest is history, right? He became just an incredible football player. But he is so much more than that. I loved watching him play football. I still love watching him play. But what I love even more is who he is. If you follow him on social media, he is true to himself every day. He's positive. He dreams big. He works hard. My favorite stat about J.J. Watt is the fact that he raised more than $41.6 million for the victims in Texas that were affected by Hurricane Harvey. $41.6 million. It was the largest crowdsource ever for fundraising. It's a stat to be proud of. And again, it's all because he lives by his motto, dream big, work hard. Why do I tell you all of this? Because how do you want to be seen? I want you to spend some time after this presentation to think about that. How do you want to be seen? What would your slogan be? What would you want people to think of when they saw you? You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Dream big, work hard. I'm loving it, right? Think about who you are. How do you want to be seen? All right, let's talk a little bit more. How to stand out in a crowd. You guys are going to start doing, maybe you already have, maybe you're going to be getting close to it, going in for job interviews and getting your first job. It's really important to look at some of the things that'll make you stand out in the workforce. I want to call out to Nick Berger, who is our Business World Manager. Nick has been an intern with our program. He was an intern for 3 years. He recently graduated, and we snapped him up because he was the epitome of a hard worker. He knew our business. He loves it. He lives it just like I do, and he's been such an asset. He proved himself here during his internship. Every job that you have, whether you're bagging groceries or washing cars, no matter what your first job is, learn from it. It's important. Every skill you're learning is important. It's going to help you in your future. So let's talk about that. Number one, if you can't be on time, be early. Okay? Be early. Be early to your job interviews. Be early to work. Show up. Make sure that your bosses know that you want to be there. This is something that's more than just bagging that groceries. This is something that every time you're interacting with the customer, you're giving them a little bit more. You're giving them that smile. You never know, that person that is you're coming in through the grocery line might be having a really bad day, right? And if you just say, hey, thank you, have a great day, that could change their whole day. Be that person. Be the person that makes them feel better. Be that light. Write handwritten thank you notes, okay? That's so important. After you have a job interview, send a handwritten thank you note. Email is great, we all live by email, but guess what? We all live by email. So sometimes emails can get just like, oh, okay, thanks. It makes you feel something, but when you actually get something in the mail, don't you love it when you get a card in the mail or something in the mail addressed to you and you get to open it up? I still love that even if it's junk mail, because it's kind of fun just to actually see mail. Do a handwritten thank you note. It'll make you stand out. And finally, dress for success. Dress for the job that you want, okay? So when you're going into a job interview, it doesn't matter if it's for bagging. Dress up. It's really important to be the best presentation of yourself to show that you're really serious and this is something that's important to you. We're going to talk a little bit about hard skills and soft skills. Okay, so it's really important in the job market when you're going in for an interview or when you're working in a job to know what you're doing, right? So like if you're gonna go apply to work in IT, you should know how to turn on a computer and do whatever it is that you need to do on the computer, right? Super important. And so employers are gonna be looking for that. They wanna make sure that you know how to do the hard stuff. But more importantly, and this is something that we hear as the State Chamber of Commerce from all of our members, they'll hire the right person meaning someone who's on time, who's enthusiastic, who's a good team player, who wants to learn. Never stop learning. Talked about that before. That's what they're looking for in a job because guess what? You can be trained to do anything. That's why people spend money to go to college. That's why people keep learning, right? Because you can be trained to do anything that's important to you. And employers know that. They're looking for good employees. Be a good problem solver. Be a good communicator. This is all that marketing, right? Show who you are. Show who you want to be. So again, be strong, be consistent, be yourself. All right, production. This is where I'm going to get a little mom on you guys, all right? Because I kind of worry about the direction that our world is going. Production managers in a manufacturing company are really important. They're the ones that make sure that all the supplies are getting in the way that they're supposed to be getting in, that things are getting out the way they're supposed to be getting out. They're making sure purchasing managers are getting in the right inventory. They're really busy. They're overtasked, they're overscheduled. If something happens on the line, that throws all of production off and they have to figure out how to make it better. They also look for ways to improve processes and everything. They have so much going on every day, and no day is ever the same. It's a really cool job, but it's also controlling chaos in a lot of ways. And that's my worry, you guys. I feel like right now in high school, we are throwing so many things at you, right? Because it's not just enough to be a good student. It's not just enough to have a job, to take care of your family, to take care of your friends, and to do all your sports and your music and all your extracurriculars. There's a lot on your plates, right? We're expecting so much out of you, just like production managers. So it's up to you to find a way to figure out how to get away from all that craziness. The example I like to use here is my daughter. I gave her a hard time on the money side, but she is also probably the most well-balanced person that I know. She's amazing. She's probably the most gifted piano player that I have ever heard. She can get on that piano and she plays it. When she was in second grade, she started playing by ear, and I was like, Kara, do you want to take lessons? And she said, yeah, I'd really like to. So I got her into lessons. And guess what? Here's the thing. Even though she's so gifted, I'm the only person that's ever really heard her play because she never did any recitals. She didn't want other people to hear it. Music to her was her escape. Music to her, when she had a really hard test, she had an AP exam, her friends were giving her a hard time, her boyfriend broke up with her, anything, any stress, she would come in and she would sit down and she would pluck away on that piano and she would sit there and play, and all that stress would go away. And to me, that's the most beautiful gift, to be able to find something like that that helps you. For me, guess what it is? Candy Crush. Anybody still playing Candy Crush? That is my way to decompress. Every night before I go to bed, Candy Crush is on my phone. It helps my brain settle down. Find that thing for you, okay? Find that thing. Because it's up to us to really figure out a way to manage this stress. I want to leave you with this. I want you to do something today that your future self is going to thank you for. Remember that motto. Think of that every day. Do something today that your future self is going to thank you for. Whether it's your homework, whether it's showing up at school, whether it's helping out a friend. You're learning every day just by your experiences, and you're building a really strong business. Keep building, keep dreaming, keep learning. Thank you very much.